Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another one of my Dota 2 hero guides. Today we're going to be taking a look at Bounty Hunter. So, Bounty Hunter is usually played as a 4-position support. It's rare that the hero is played as a 5, but you probably could make it work. It could be viable if it's a great patch for Bounty, but more than likely you're going to want to pair Bounty with a strong laning hero that can be independent at times, which is why he's usually a 4 and not really a 5. Also, as a core, Bounty can sometimes be played as an offlaner, and actually at the beginning of Dota, or even like Dota 1, he was a carry, and people have been trying to bring that back, but it hasn't really worked. But he has a lot of weaknesses as a core hero, so for the most part, it's not that popular. It hasn't really been popular for a long time. So we're just going to take a look at his 4-position support type of playstyle. Bounty's a fairly unique hero in Dota who's all about abusing vision. He has an ability that makes him go invisible, and his ultimate gives vision of the enemy, so he's very annoying and just loves to go into the backline and annoy supports in team fights and, track people to make sure that everyone knows where the cores are going so they can't escape and all that kind of stuff. He loves to gank heroes in the jungle when they're trying to farm alone, all that kind of annoying stuff. But before we can understand how to play Bounty in general, we have to take a look at his abilities. Now that we understand a little bit about Bounty, we can take a look at his abilities. So first we're going to take a look at Shuriken Toss. This is a pretty straightforward ability. Really, you just target it on an enemy, and you throw out a little shuriken, and it does a little bit of damage. And you can see, let me just, I believe it slows or like mini stuns. Yeah, it slows them for a little bit. It actually used to mini stun, but now the stun is on his shadow walk. They've changed this all around, so just keep in mind that they may change it back at some point. Because this hero definitely got better when they changed the stun to shadow walk and the slow to shuriken toss, because this used to be a slow. So anyway, just keep that in mind, that could be changed or has been changed in the past. But really, that's kind of the long and short of this ability. It's really not that big of a deal. You can spam it. It has a very low cooldown, but a decent mana cost because this hero is an agility hero, so it's not going to have a huge mana pool unless you buy mana pool items or mana regen items and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of one of these abilities that you can spam, do a little bit of extra damage. The real way that this ability kind of synergizes with the rest of his kit is once you buy Ags, which we'll take a look at in a second once I explain the rest of his abilities. So Janata, you can see it is like automatically on right now. I have it right clicked. I can right click to turn it off. Basically, it's a right click ability, so it works with your right click. And if I don't have it on, this is just my normal right click, but if I right click it here and turn it on, then it automatically casts it when it is available. It's a very low cooldown once it's maxed out, and what you do is you just do a little bit of a critical strike there, so you can see I'm doing extra damage, and I'm stealing gold from the enemy, which obviously can be very annoying. So this hero is extremely annoying, and this is one of the reasons why. And the other reason why is because of shadow walks. You can go invisible, so you just obviously will be farming in the jungle mid-game or something as a carry, and you think you're fine, and then a bounty hunter walks up to you invisible that you can't even see and just hits you, steals your gold, and does some damage, which can be very annoying, especially if you're not having a very good game. And once you pop out of invis, you get stunned for a little bit, which is also extremely annoying. Like I said, in the past, this was the stun and this was the slow, but this hero does have a way to cancel TPs. You can also do this thing where, you just wait here for this to be at a very short cooldown or low cooldown, because the duration is a lot longer than the cooldown, so you can actually have like 2 invisible bursts. So you can wait till this is up again to actually go and hit somebody. That way you can then disappear, or you can even in a team fight stun them twice, hit them once, stun them, and then go invisible again, and then stun them again a little bit later, just to kind of chain stun them, so keep that in mind. And then lastly, we can take a look at track. So track here is a pretty straightforward ability as well. You just kind of cast it on an enemy, and then you get vision of them. So actually, let me just go out of vision here. It is daytime, but you can see that I can still see Axe even though he's in Fog of War. Now, I can't see anything around him. You can see, like, it's just Axe himself. There's no, like, AoE vision or anything like that. So if an enemy walks by him, it doesn't really matter. I can't see them. But it's very, very good for just, knowing where people are, so that they, if they're tracked, it's going to be dangerous for them to farm in the jungle because you could potentially gank them. If they're tracked in a team fight, you know where they are at all times. It's harder for them to escape or run away, or even cast abilities from behind like a lot of supports want to do. And then the other thing that this ability does as well is when you right-click the enemy with this Janata, it does extra damage when you have the enemy tracked. So a lot of times what you'll do is you'll go invis, and you can actually track the enemy while invis. It doesn't break your invis, and then you'll walk up to them, and then you'll hit this hit them once with Janata, stun them, do a bunch of damage. You can even throw a shuriken in there to do extra damage, which just makes this hero extremely annoying. Does a lot of damage if you have a very good game, you're high level, you have a bunch of points and all these abilities, and the enemy is struggling if you're snowballing the game. And then the last thing that track does is it also gives you extra gold. So when you kill an enemy that is tracked, you and also all of your allies that are participating in that kill are going to get extra gold. So this snowballs the game even harder for Bounty. And then if you are in a bad position, it'll help you come back as well, which is very, very good. So that's why you want to be involved in a lot of kills. The other thing I will say about this quick Janata, as I forgot to mention, is when you have it off, you can actually use it still by just pressing W. So it's not like you have to right click it. It's just one of those things that you're going to do later in the game. So during the laning stage, you're probably going to have it off so you're not automatically using it. That way you can use it on the enemy or to get a last hit or whatever you want to do, and you can just pick and choose when you actually want to use it. So those are all the normal abilities. Now I will just quickly mention the Ags. For some reason, that stuff's not popping up over here. I don't know why. But Ags is important. Ags Scepter, Ags Shard is not that big of a deal. I mean, it is important, but you can read it. It doesn't really do anything super special. It just gives you 2 charges of Shadow Walk. That's not a huge deal. And I feel like they might change it in the future, so don't really worry about that too much. But this is this Ags has been around for a pretty long time. And what it does is it actually just allows... Let me just actually spawn another Ags here. It allows your...
It's not time yet.
Janata to go off, I believe, with Shuriken Toss. So you can see I'm doing insane damage with this. So not only can you hit people with the Janata to do extra damage, you can also Shuriken Toss to do even more damage, steal extra gold. It just can be very annoying. In the team fights, when you're tracking a lot of people, you're throwing these Shuriken Tosses from range, it's hitting all the supporters, it's hitting everybody, it's slowing them. You just become a very annoying high damage hero from distance, and you don't really have to commit yourself in too far. Now, obviously, this isn't a very long range. This is a decent range, so you still have to be kind of a little bit vulnerable there, but that's why this hero is all about positioning, abusing invisibility, abusing positioning, and vision in all the different ways that you can use all these abilities. So it seems pretty straightforward and simple, but it takes some time to kind of get a feel for pushing your limits and playing this hero really to the ability where you're not just being completely useless, and you're also just not feeding because you're going in too much. So that's Bounty. Those are his abilities. Now let's take a look at how to play him in a game. Bounty Hunter's laning stage is similar to other melee 4 positions. The ideal situation in lane is for Bounty to walk up to the enemy carry and hit him with Janata to harass and steal gold as much as possible, but you always have to be careful of the enemy turning on you and killing you. If it's too dangerous to walk up into lane, you're going to want to mess with the pull camps and force the enemy support to fight on your terms as much as possible, and that's usually what a lot of melee 4s end up trying to do. But the main way that Bounty accomplishes this is through his ability Shadow Walk, where he can go invisible. He's going to abuse this invisibility that is level 1, which not a lot of heroes get to have invisibility level 1, as a huge part of the early game. So because of this, making sure that you win the sentry war is extremely important. So you're going to be fighting a lot with putting sentries in lane, putting sentries in the camps, all that kind of stuff. Now, I can't show you all the details of, how to do that, because that changes with every single patch. So if you want to know how to do that in this patch, I would suggest going to a replay of a pro player playing Bounty and see what they do to win this sentry war. But that's an extremely important part of the early laning stage with Bounty. The other big part of the laning stage for Bounty is that he can gank mid and help with runes. If your offlaner can be left alone without dying for like 30 seconds or so, it's a great idea to contest runes for your mid player. This can honestly win them the lane and snowball the entire game in your favor. It's extremely important to be as annoying as possible early game with Bounty. If your opponents aren't constantly questioning your location and scared of your presence, then you're not really playing Bounty to his full potential. And that's honestly the philosophy of the mid game for Bounty as well. You want to get a decent level 6 timing and just run around the map scouting for your team. In the ideal scenario, you're going to be sneaking through the jungle and finding their carry or other farming cores, and you can gank them with the help of your team. Or if you're really having a good game and you're really snowballing, you may even be able to harass them and scare them away by yourself, or in rare situations, even kill those cores by yourself. But really the key to Bounty in this scenario is knowing your limits. If the enemy has a brain at all, they will start to adjust to your aggressive play and lay in wait to help their cores. So the supports will obviously be just hiding in the trees, making sure that they're putting wards down or on hills or wherever they know that their core is farming, and then as soon as you show up, they will gank you and kill you. And this is when you need to be really careful, because if you push your limits too far, then you're just going to end up feeding. And if you keep doing that, that kind of ruins the whole purpose of what you're trying to do on the map. And the last part of the mid game for Bounty is just making sure that you're involved in as many kills and as many fights as possible. And that's because you want to be tracking all the heroes that die in the game. And when you do that, you snowball the game even harder. Or if you're having a bad game, if you do get that, one-off kill, that just makes it even better for your team to come back and get more gold so they can actually keep pace with the enemy. Then once we transition to late game, your main job as a Bounty is to scout for your team while knowing your limits. You don't want to be just like always in the front, because if they have a ward and you just get picked off and die in the beginning, that kind of is useless for your team. Yeah, you maybe have tracked a guy or two, but that doesn't really do much. So you don't want to get caught out in a bad position. What you do want to do is get aggressive to the point where you're kind of skirting the side of the fight, get to the back, give vision for your team, obviously, like I said, and then wrap around on the supports and really harass them, make it very annoying for them to play the team fights, because if enemy supports have to force staff themselves or cast spells on you or themselves to save themselves and kind of run away, then they're not really participating in the team fight. They're not able to help their carry, because a lot of, supports have stunning abilities to stun the enemy, they have saving abilities, and they can't really cast those on the heroes that need to get stunned, that need to get saved. And so that's how you win fights with Bounty Hunter. And then lastly, in the perfect game, you may actually become a core yourself, where you'll have just enough farm, enough items and levels where you can kill cores and everything just by yourself. So yeah, you might wrap around onto the supports and kill them, but then you could even like 1v1 cores or man up on cores after that, or kill cores solo in the jungle like I talked about before. Then in hard games, if you're not snowballing, it can be very difficult to play Bounty, because the enemy has more map control, they have wards everywhere. It just feels like if you ever go out, you get picked off, and you definitely don't want to feed, because then that just makes coming back even harder. But just know that if you do have a good base defense and you get a lot of track kills, that just kind of accelerates your comeback drastically. So you should never really give up just because you're best at snowballing, or your hero is really good when you're snowballing, but you can still make a decent comeback with the hero even though it's not really playing to its strengths. And that, everyone, is my Bounty Hunter guide. If you liked the video or found it helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.